Mike, what are you doing with that coffee? You're mixing sugar with the lid? So hold on a minute here. Did you not get your pay out from the Odyssey a couple of weeks ago, no? No. So hello and welcome to part 2 of our evening. It's good to talk, it's good to listen, an evening with a purpose. Suppose there's this whole big thing going about in hashtags, it's good to talk and it's okay not to be okay. But I suppose on my journey and how I got well and the journey that I'm continuing to be on, I think listening is at the top of that, is getting people into a room with knowledge, even people who are going through tough times, sometimes by just sitting and listening to them. In my experience, is near enough giving them validation by validating their feelings, and then they get all of a sudden they feel important. Even in my experience growing up, whenever people are coming to me saying they're having a hard time or whatever, and then you're trying to tell them what to do, this is what you should do, this is what you should do, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, and then everything just becomes all overwhelmed, and it's easier then just to go back into their old patterns of behaviour. So I think listening, and it's a subject that you do when you, hopefully no one goes to Kielmora, but it's a subject you do whenever you go to Kielmora, and I think the power of listening is just, it's very, very underestimated. But yeah, this is my first live podcast, so this is season 0, episode 1 of the live Let's Face It podcast, and this podcast is proudly brought to you by Inspire Wellbeing and Change Your Mind. So thank you very much for your support, it's greatly appreciated. And I would just like to introduce Mick Conlan, who was our very first guest, and so my guest was supposed to be on 1 o'clock on a Saturday. First podcast, got my wee office sorted, courtesy of my Uncle Liam, kitted it out, new carpets, sofas and all, had it sitting lovely. Come Saturday, nerves away, absolutely shattered, texting Mick on Instagram, well, what's the crack, still good for the day? Nothing. Cameras and all set up, still nothing. Sitting there at 1:30, I can't remember if it was 1 or, we'll say it was 1 o'clock, it was 4, sitting there at 1:30, nothing. 2 o'clock, sitting there, nothing. Mate, I completely forgot. I'm so sorry. I'm not doing this podcast anymore. That was me. That was terrible. He thinks I'm an idiot. He set me up. Oh, madness. But you come in the next day, and ever since then, Mick, anything I suppose I've asked you for, and we do live in a world where when people are doing well, it's constantly take, and I do understand that. But the support that you've given me, throughout this year, sponsoring podcasts, just being back to me straight away, it's something that I'll never ever forget, because at the very start I opened up this evening talking about we have perceptions of people and the following I suppose they have on social media, and I probably, with all of you, put you all up on a pedestal, but was soon to realise that you're just a normal person. I was on BBC Radio the other day talking about people becoming a product of their environment, and people from deprived areas becoming near enough, right, okay, it's the easy thing to do, fall into them circles. Sometimes they don't have a choice, but I also did say on the other side of it, the highly, highly successful people sometimes come from them environments because they have that drive in them. And ever since I met you, Mick, the energy that you give out, and me and Kieran talk about you a lot, and I know Kieran has, you know Kieran well as well, so, and you're always saying that I'm going to be the world champion. Where did that mindset come from? And from just like Mick just comes from across the road, down the Falls Road, so where did that energy come from, and that enthusiasm come from?
I literally live 5 minutes away from here. Well, I grew up 5 minutes away from here, and it's been something which has just been in me since I was a kid. Maybe family, maybe area, but you know, I have 4 brothers. It was always a competition, and I'm second youngest, so one of my brothers is here, but it was always competition, especially with me and him. We hated each other for years because he always wanted to do better than me. No, Brendan.
Do you want to come down and third
So we can go now if you want. Like,
right, that's
But yeah, it was always competition and everything. And I was in life. I was always just trying to compete. I was always small. And coming from this area, you'd always get slagged for something, and I was always called wee Mick, and people used to take the piss out of me for being small. So that made me competitive. So it's just the competitiveness that kind of, I think, helped me drive out of where I'm from.
Class. And another thing that then, that was obviously your view and the energy that you put into life. But another thing that I got off you was like, I'm going to be the world champion. After everything you've been through, obviously the madness with the Olympics, with giving the fingers up and all that sort of carry on, which has now proved to be actually true recently. All that hardship, all them setbacks, I suppose, throughout your career. You fought Lee Wood there about 6-7 months ago, which was just got announced. I'm getting on like I know what I'm talking about boxing, but I've interviewed enough of them to know that I'm actually a boxing fan. But the fight, we got fight of the year. Yeah. It was an unbelievable ding-dong battle, but at the end of it, you're out through the ropes. People thinking, what Twitter's like, Mick Conlan's going to die in the ring and all this sort of carry on, which wasn't the case, obviously. Yeah. But then I went to watch you in the Odyssey there 2 weeks ago, and you were like a different animal, and it just shows you, and Kieran has it in his name, natural resilience. It just shows you the resilience that you have and the ability to bounce back even when there's people on social media sort of saying that you're done. Where did you find that? Because you could easily sit back and put your feet up, Mick, and be content enough. But so where did you find that drive?
When I was a kid, Kieran spoke about The Secret earlier. My mother read The Secret, and she was saying, "You need to read this." I was like, "Nah, never read it." And then when I did read it, I was like, "I'm going to start to do this," but instead of just reading it, I was putting action in and believing what I was doing. And I kept doing that. Kept thinking, putting the image up there, following the image, finding what I was going to do, telling everybody I was going to be world champion. And in 2015, I went and been Ireland's first ever amateur world champion when I just kept telling myself, told everybody in the room, done it the next day. And then since then, it's just been solid, non-stop. I've just kept doing that and doing that. And then when setbacks come, it's normal. If you're going to sit there and then pity yourself, like I could have stayed out of the ring, and many people I've seen on social media saying he shouldn't be in the ring for a long time, he needs to recover. But I was looking at like it was one punch. It was like that guy took a beating for 12 rounds. I took one punch, and that was it. There wasn't much damage. So to get back into the ring, I had to come over a lot of hurdles, mentally, doubts. You ask yourself, am I the same fighter? Am I on the slide? What's going to happen to me? Is my life going to end in the ring? You don't know, because boxing is a very dangerous sport. But I always knew it was going to be world champion, and I know it still will be world champion. So I just keep that belief in my head and get back in the ring, training, seeing what I'm doing in the gym, the preparation, and it just shows me where I'm going to go. I know what I'm doing.
And you can even feel that, and I suppose now you can relate to me with the energy that I got off Mick from the first day I met you. Unbelievable. And I just want to ask you, even, obviously the area, we're both from West Belfast, we know how bad things are now, and we might as well be honest about it with the culture of alcohol within young people, cocaine within young people. How do you feel about that, and how do you feel about, I suppose, nights like this?
Well, I myself could have been another statistic, you know what I mean? I was falling down that route. Thankfully I had a good family, and a fear, I suppose, of my brothers and my father and even my mother, and embarrassing them, because it was going away. I was involved in a lot of drugs and taking drugs from the ages of 11, 12 to 16, and then I get on to like a national squad and was told I could drug test on a trip. I says, fuck that, if I get caught, my dad will kill me. So I was like, I'm not doing this. If I bring the embarrassment of my family like that, I was literally dead. Like, so I wasn't up for doing that, and that's what kind of helped me drive it. But like a lot of my friends who I grew up with, have lost their lives, have took their own lives, have lost their lives through drugs, and it's depressing to see. Like, I went to Corpus Christi. Corpus Christi's now closed, but the last time I was there, I was speaking to one of the teachers because I was doing a talk, speaking to like whatever their awards was. And when I was doing the talk, after I was talking to the teacher, and he was saying, you wouldn't believe how much kids from just down the road in Davis there, like I'm from Falls Road, basically, Kennedy Street, just down the street, there's kids here who are on prescription drugs from the ages of 12, need help, need counselling, have to come to school to get counselling. It's scary to see, and this is the area I grew up in. It could have easily been me, but with a goal and a focus and the right people around you. You need the right people around you. And it doesn't have to be your family. You can surround yourself with the right people. You can find the right people and start to make the right decisions. And it needs to happen from young, and the young need to be taught more on it. And mental health and what we speak about here needs to be taught more in schools. It needs to be a part of school curriculum. You know what I mean? This stuff, this is what's needed. You're not going to, you don't need to go to school to learn about anything no more. Really, you can go on your phone. You know what I mean? Really, let's be honest. You can if you don't need to know maths, you've got a calculator on your phone. Just do something there. What you need to know is what's happening in life, and these things which are going on. It's crazy. It's scary, and especially seeing young people. Like I went to see a young boy whose brother took his life. I was asked to go up and see and speak to him. His kid was 9 or 10, and his brother, who was 11 or 12 or 13 or 14, whatever age he was at the time. And what killed me, and I broke down crying in the house, wasn't seeing the young boy, and I spoke to him, and he was alright. He wasn't really aware of what was going on, but it was seeing the father. And I'm sorry to say this, I don't give a fuck about who's gone. It's the people who are left behind. It's terrible to see.
It's powerful. Excellent. And I'm with you. And the more that you're being, so I know you do a lot for the community, and the more work that you do outside of the ring in terms of nights like this and what you're doing for different other organisations, the more of an impact that you're going to have, and I think it's unbelievable. And thanks so much. Cheers, Mick. Mr. Meyler. Conor Meyler, I suppose for people who don't know you, and a Tyrone senior footballer, and it's very often, and I suppose Neil can relate to this, once you're a Tyrone senior footballer or an Antrim hurler, that's all you are. That's all people think that you are. And knowing you from the outside looking in, probably for the last 5, 6, 7 years since you were at the ranch, you were the captain of the ranch team that went on and won a Sigerson Cup, which is like Leicester City going and winning the Premier League. It's sort of the same thing. Underdogs, backs against the wall. You went and done that. You won an All-Ireland with Tyrone. You get an All-Star. You were nominated for Football of the Year. Like an unbelievable sporting career. But the thing that I find most fascinating about you is your presence and how you carry yourself and the work you're actually doing. And something that I'm really, really passionate about is equality within sport, and as in gender equality, and especially within the GAA. And I know there's a lot of GAA people here this evening about the sort of the different organisations under the Gaelic Football Hurling Camogie umbrella, and the treatment that women get within that is none other than an absolute disgrace compared to what we get on a daily basis, being a part of men's senior teams. Tell me a wee bit more about the research that you're actually doing and where you're doing it and what you actually hope to gain from
it. So firstly, thanks for having me, Donald.
Yeah.
It's been an unbelievable event so far, and where that started with me, Donald, was probably, I'll even take it back one step. I remember having a poor enough underage career, not making teams, etc., and then having a bit of a sharp incline to playing for Tyrone seniors at 20, and was in college across the road in St Mary's there, and probably had a real opinion on myself at that stage to think, as you say, once you become an inter-county footballer, there's a label associated, and there's a stereotype, and you can believe in your own hype, and people hold you up on a pedestal. And I probably bought into that for a while, until a number of injuries and setbacks made me have to sort of question things and realise well, what is my identity and who am I as a person? And I probably realised then that I didn't want to be known as just Conor Meyler, football player. I wanted to have more substance and something more behind me than that. I was failed assignments in college. I fallen out with friends, family, all the rest, and I had to talk to somebody, and I opened up to a counsellor through the GPA, and we were looking at it and saying all my eggs were in one basket. If I didn't have a football, I had nothing, like literally nothing. I just felt that was my identity. So from then I really gave myself a kick up the arse and said, do you know what, if I could start to put the effort in from football into other areas of my life, hopefully they would excel too. And went on, decided I'd get out of the bubble that I'm in here. I went down to UCD, did a Masters, then decided, you know what, I don't want to just teach, I want to have a wider impact again. And I went on doing a PhD now, a doctorate, and I'd say if you spoke to any of my teachers in school or in university, they'd say, Conor Meyler doing a doctorate, are you crazy? And I still question myself on a day-to-day basis and think, you know, you are way out of your depth here, like, what you're doing. But, you know, self-awareness probably in the last 2 years, from being around good people, and you talked about energy, I went on a leadership program. Neil spoke on it. It was the first time I ever heard from Neil, and he just gave an energy that I was like, I need to talk to this man, and I just became more comfortable with settling myself to say, you know, talk to people who are wiser than you, surround yourself with good people. Kieran spoke about it earlier, people who are the 9s and the 10s, and be around that. And from that, spoke to Neil, met him since. We went to Kenya together before Christmas, you know, and you can drop your barriers in with people like that, and you can be vulnerable, you know, you can be authentic. And I probably realised then, when I looked at sport, an opportunity came up to do a PhD in gender, and it was sport leadership and gender. So when I really started to think, well, I don't know anything about gender in sport, I started to take a bit of a deep dive before I agreed anything, and I realised that the inequalities were above and beyond anything I expected. And I started to look at myself and realise, what have I really done for gender equality in sport? And I realised I'd probably been turning a blind eye to it as well. As a Tyrone senior footballer with the men, we got everything we needed: food after training, mileage, you know, pitches, gear, everything. And the ladies were across on the far side, and they weren't getting the mileage, they weren't getting their food, they mightn't got a warm shower, and sometimes they were having to pay for pitches. And when I stripped it back and I realised, like, you have a profile and you are where we are now, I don't want to be remembered as a footballer, I want to have a wider impact. And looking at the gender inequalities, I was like, there's something I can put my hand to, and there's an area I can lend support. And I say, the further I dug into the research, this was happening across the world. It was happening across every sport, rugby, soccer, and it's so prevalent every day and today in society. And sports really just, especially in Ireland, an extension from what's happening in society, where there's still a lot of poor treatment of women in workplace and everything else. So that gives me now a purpose outside of sport to have a bigger impact, and that's hopefully the plan for the next couple of years studying, is to go down that route. My plan is to create a pathway for integration between the GA, LGFA and Camogie. So at the minute we have 3 separate organisations where you're governing one body. It's all Gaelic games, but yet we have 3 organisations, which is crazy to think about. But in Ireland, we're so traditional and parochial that we keep it the same way, and you daren't change anything. When really we think, how can we have the best sport in the world if we're segregating people based on what gender they are? You know, if I'm a boy and I go down this route, if I'm a girl I go down this route, the boy I'm well looked after, the girl I'm not going to get the same here. So that's the plan, to push for that now. And as I say, for me, I had to put my hands up and say, I have done nothing to help so far. I've actually been blinded to it, and the more awareness. And again, there's a difficulty in it as well that as a male speaking up for gender inequality or for gender equality is something different, because when I first started to speak about it, I get more stick and slagging from people than I got support, because it's like, sure, look at your man, he's obviously is some other reason for doing it, or he's just doing it for attention or whatever. And lads in your team, GA and the sport it is, you're always going to get slagging for something, and I get more stick than I do support. And I'm comfortable enough now myself to say this is the right thing to do on a wider scale, and yeah, that's the plan.
Unbelievable. And you talk about the energies, and we support you because we know you're doing the right thing, and the right people support you, and I think that's powerful, unbelievable stuff. And the more and more I sort of spent more time with Richie and obviously with Fitzy and stuff like that, all these boys know you, the more interested and sort of fascinated I got by. I don't stalk you or anything, like, don't worry. But anymore. I got to meet you. Conor goes to bed at night with tape around his mouth. Tell me a bit more about that.
Speaking of Mick about this there too, we're having a bit of a chat about the nasal breathing.
Sorry, Mick does it too.
Mick's heart rate's lower than mine, so he's on a winner here. But I suppose for me it was looking for 1%. I wasn't the most talented footballer. When I was under 16, my dad was a coach and he put me on the B team. So the A team went on and won an under 16 championship, and I was playing the B team in Division 4, and we got tanked every game. So that was humbling. But I knew that I wasn't the most talented, so I was going to have to find how can I get an edge elsewhere. And even when I got to Tyrone Minor level, I got dropped from the Tyrone Minors, didn't make it. All my friends playing went on, had their success, won Ulster, and I didn't. So I was chasing all the gains then. Probably when I hit that age, I was trying to train more, do more, everything. Got to senior level then, and again, you're looking for an edge. So started to read up and study more about the cold water therapy, nasal breathing, saunas, all the recovery tools, and I knew if I can maximise myself physically, then mentally, it might keep you on a level par with people who are probably had that more talent from a younger age, like. So
what's your missus
always
say?
Chasing goals.
What's your girlfriend say whenever you go to bed with tape in your mouth?
Depends what sort of night of the week it is.
Fair enough. They keep it off on a Saturday.
If there's a game on a Saturday or a Sunday, then the tape's on Saturday night.
No, and like... I grew up, I suppose, not having an option other than watching Tyrone play every week. My granda, on my daddy's side, was from Promoray, and even my dad standing at the back there, and we've such a strong connection with even Tyrone football. Always looking to know what's going on in Tyrone club football and stuff like that. But even on the journey of Tyrone throughout the 2000s, which I'll talk to Annette about as well, but in 03, 05, 08, the successes, you're growing up as a child, sort of wanting to be a part of that. How special did it feel whenever you finally got the Croke Park and Lift Sam?
It was a bit surreal. I suppose when you're chasing a dream all your life and you have an image of what it's going to be like in your head. Like I remember being at the 05 and 08 finals with my dad, run onto the pitch and having this like feeling of elation, but not really understanding what was going on. Carrying a football under my arm, and you didn't know what it was, but you're like, I want to feel this someday. So for me, it was chasing a feeling, and again, you didn't know what it was going to be like until you got there. thankfully we experienced it in 2021 when the All-Ireland, and you know, with the season I had, it was just dream come true sort of stuff. And what I would say though, which people maybe wouldn't expect, is like you chase this external thing for so long and then you receive it and it's like, I'm still the same person. And I remember waking up the next day and thinking, right, that was a moment in my life, but I don't want it to define me either. Like, I don't want to be known just that was it and live off that, and I want to do extra, more purposeful things as well. Like when you walk out of your room the next morning, there's no chariot, there's no blank check, no Ferrari. Like, your life doesn't change that way. And you know, great coach I had when I was in St Mary's, Paddy Talley. We won the Sigerson Cup, and it was the first time in 27 odd years, and I was captain of the team, and I thought I was the dog's bollocks. I thought it was great. And I remember sitting in a room with Paddy then, a couple of days later, talking about how great it was, and he turned to me and said, in sport, Conor, you become last week's news very quickly. And he was spot on. You know, the following week we had a league game, can't even remember who we played, the result doesn't matter. Like, sport just moved on, and the newspapers were talking about someone else. So for me, that All-Ireland win is a memory for me that'll last a lifetime. But like sport, things move on, and we went on to last season, we were terrible. And
I was going to touch on that, but go on.
no. People remember that very quickly. So that's just the way it goes. If you feel that your sport defines you, like, you're gonna have a lot of ups and downs. So for me, it's been having other things outside of it and having a purpose that means I can say, yep, that happened. You know, yes, and I can accept it a wee bit more, because in sport too, you just don't have control. Like Mick sort of alluded to it earlier, like, you die in the ring, I don't know what's going to happen every time I step out on a pitch. Touch wood, like, you know, you pick up an injury, you get taken off, you lose the game. There's so many things you can't control, but when the more comfortable I become in myself, it's like, right, results are going to happen, shit happens, and you go home at night, you look yourself in the mirror and it's like, right, you know, I'm happy to be here, you have plenty of good in my life, and tomorrow's another day and people will be talking about something else. So
Class. Thanks very much, Conor. Thank you. Penny Kelly. It's funny because... Is this on? Can you hear me? Yeah. It's funny because whenever you go on to like Little Penny Thoughts and you see there's so many thousand followers and all this, and what I talked about at the start there about having perceptions of people. And I probably had a certain perception of you, or put you up on a pedestal. And whenever I reached out, they asked you to come on to my podcast. It was, I know sweating, nothing was ever sweating, everything's sweet, and right, okay. And there's one thing you just said to me that I'll never forget. And I've sort of took it with me throughout the journey of Let's Face It, that, don't know, it's not about the following that I have, it's about the community that I create. And that just sunk with me, that we have the ability to do whatever we want, but we also have the ability to bring people along with us. And it's something that you've done throughout the last load of years, and you're a big part of why I'm sitting here today, underneath, I suppose, the organisation of Let's Face It, and why I done what I done, and why there's so many young females and females who feel empowered because they're sitting in their kitchens or sitting in their offices and they have their wee flip charts of the quotes every day. And I think it's just incredible, the work that you've done. And even though I've only known you, probably I only met you last year, I can't help but actually feel so proud of you for what you've actually done. But everyone has a why. And tell me a bit more about your why. We talked about it last night, actually, didn't we?
That's it. And, you know, thanks so much, Donal, for having me. And I was sitting there thinking very inadequate on the sofa here the night, to be surrounded by so many sports people, you know, and I thought, you know, sometimes you doubt yourself. And it's funny how you have to check your thoughts all the time. When Kieran was, you know, talking there this evening, it really brought me back that, anyone could be sitting on this sofa tonight. We all have a story, we all have a journey, and thanks so much, Donald, for letting me on your podcast to even share mine. It was probably one of my most open conversations ever on a podcast. I think because it can relate so much to why you started. Let's face it, lots of people think that Little Penny Thoughts was born out of rainbows and butterflies, and that I shoot rainbows out of my backside. This is the sometimes perception of people at all. And I would get nicknamed Positive Penny, and even Conor, you were saying there about people's perception of you, and people don't understand maybe why you're doing something. But my why is the exact same way as when I started in 2015. 2015, I was in a very, very dark place, a place where I never want to revisit again. And I suppose what was helping me was quotes, and not cheesy quotes, but words that spoke to me. And I know words can hurt or words can heal, and that's indeed the words you say to yourself or the words you say to others. But I was getting great comfort from quotes I was finding. And what I was doing then, I was a primary school teacher at the time, and I was sharing them on my own Facebook page, which is Annette Kelly, and I would be getting a wee phone call from a friend being like, "Here, you all right, eh?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I 100% just found a wee quote, thought someone would like it," but I was far from all right. So, to be honest, but I was in total denial because I would be known as happy-go-lucky, bubbly Annette Kelly, and for me to be diagnosed with depression and anxiety was completely shocking to me, never mind my close friends and family, because I didn't think that I fit the criteria. However, nobody's exempt, not one person, and that's why when I came out the other side, I realised, I want to speak about this, because I don't want, the suffering to continue, especially among, at that stage I was in my 20s, and in your 20s or in any age, you can put a lot of pressure on yourself, and that's what happened to me. I became my own enemy. I really you can make a heaven or a hell out of your head, and I was in hell. However, I was masking it by letting on I was happy-go-lucky. Little Penny Thoughts was born definitely through darkness. I said to my sister that I wanted to create a page to put these quotes on. I don't want it to be coming from me, probably because I was a wee bit ashamed or a wee bit embarrassed that maybe I was posting quotes, because in 2015 it wasn't that mainstream, and I come from Carrickmore, a small rural area, and I love it dearly, but it's a bit like Emmerdale. You can't fart without someone knowing what's going on, do you know what I mean? But, honestly, but I overcame a lot of barriers during them years when Little Penny Thoughts started to become a thing, and it only became a thing because people were liking and sharing the posts. It wasn't, they weren't even my words at the start. I didn't have the confidence to write my own quotes at the start because I thought, who do I think I am to write? But everyone has the ability to write. Everyone has the ability to do what they want to do. And when I started leaving judgment at the door, even self-judgment first and foremost, and CBT, cognitive behaviour therapy, was a game changer for me in order to help rewire my brain so I could think more rationally and generally be more kinder to myself. I never thought that, I would ever leave teaching. Teaching is a profession that I thought that I rolled about St Mary's there too the Holy Lands actually I rolled about for a lot of years. But I went to St Mary's, I graduated as a teacher, and I was very happy-go-lucky. And, when I entered into the teaching role, that's when I started to take myself maybe very seriously, started to think that I have to have it all together, put myself under immense pressure from what parents thought of me, what children thought of me, what my colleagues thought of me, and all of a sudden life became so serious, and that wasn't me. And it was in my mid-20s that it wasn't teaching that brought me to my knees, it was my mindset that brought me to my knees. And I suppose by getting support and getting help and talking about it, that was my way through. And the big thing here is your inner critic, and I still battle with her. Her name's Geraldine. Sorry if anyone's called Geraldine. in this room, but you know, it's no offence, like, but even driving up here the night, or even sitting on the sofa here the night, it's like, Annette, you don't deserve to be here. And I'm like, you know what, not today, Geraldine. You know, get to France type of thing. But a big part of me is overcoming that, is catching my thoughts and challenging them and changing them. And yes, the quotes are a big part of that, because the things I would put up a lot of, there's definitely a big theme throughout my quotes, and that's, you know, self-doubt and overcoming that, and, you know, facing fears, and, you know, even what you said there, Kieran, about, you know, when you're fearful, you know, you're on to a good thing. I do lots of things now that scare, can I say the dung out of me? Can I scare that? You know, that scares me.
I all wanted it to be like the Graham Norton show, but it's not actually the Graham Norton show, so you can say whatever you want.
That scare me, and stepping into fear and proving myself wrong. I'm not proving anyone wrong. I prove myself wrong, and I keep doing it. And I'm not saying that since I got support and help, the healing's been linear. It's been a bit of a roller coaster, but I'm very proud to speak of my story in order to empower others, and this is why I have such admiration for you, Donal. Like, you know, you're very, you know, like I could actually get so emotional, because when we talk about our way, your way is that you don't want people to suffer like you did, so you're giving people another choice, another option. I don't want people to suffer like I did, and there's so many people suffering at the minute. There's a lot of people holding it in and never letting on. You know, when you meet someone on the street, you ask them, how are you? And you walk on without actually hearing their answer. Life's so busy, and it's actually stopping and checking in with yourself. How are you, asking yourself honestly how you're doing. And if you're not, you know, and that's, you know, you talked about a scale, Kieran, from 0 to 10. It's been a long time since I've checked in with myself. It's having that self-awareness and having the courage to know that things can change. That if you're not in a good place at the minute, you know, we can change. And the thing is, you know, we're not a tree. We can move, we can grow, we can... There's so many options out there, but when you're trapped in your own mind, it can be very, very difficult to move forward, and that's why support is needed, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. And there's so many people that I would put up a quote, and you would get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of messages. You know, people maybe that quote hit home to, and even though I can't get back to everyone, hopefully in my own wee way online, I can direct them to services or places that they can go, or options. Even, you know, the likes of, I would be an advocate for cognitive behaviour therapy, because it worked for me. However, it's not one size fits all when it comes to mental health. I'm delighted that Little Panic Thoughts has become, you know, my career. It's become my livelihood, and it's very much a family affair. And it took my sister, and this is the importance of surrounding yourself with right people. It was my sister, but it could be a friend. When I came to her and I said, I want to create this positive space online, she didn't laugh at me. She didn't say, catch yourself on it. She says, right, what are you going to call it? And I said, I don't know. I don't know what to call it. And her purse said, a panic for your thoughts. And I caught a glint of it. I was like, panic for your thoughts? She's like, well, you can't steal a iconic thing. And I was like, panic thoughts. And she said, throw the word little into it. She's a graphic designer. She created a logo. And from small beginnings, it built momentum. And I'm so proud to see our product in schools, in hospitals, in waiting rooms, in family homes. And that's what spurs me on, because them words, you never know when they might hit and help. And that's why I know the power of words. And I'll go back to what I said, the words that you say to yourself and the words that you say to others.
That's unbelievable. And obviously, that's like, and having that why and that drive is what we spoke about. Was that last night or the night before? Is what gets us out of bed every morning, I suppose. And even wellness from within, which is me and Eamon were invited up to that night up in Oma. Wasn't it Oma or Cookstown or something? And we came away from it absolutely empowered. I'm going to say we, because obviously, for those who follow me on social media, Eamon's my right-hand man. He's the chairman of Let's Face It. He's the owner of RPM Motors there with Robert Murphy. He's just, do you know what I mean? He's my best friend. But we spend most days with each other, and there's something that happened that night that even changed our Eamon's life. And he was like, Donal, see whenever... By the way, you're the chairwoman of Let's Face It. Right, so there's the wink and all coming. But
we run the show.
But he's like, the chairwoman says, when you go, it really helps me. And I says, well, how does it help you, Eamon? And he says, because all my problems go away. And that's the impact that you even made on Eamon that night. And we talk about it nearly every day.
I'll pay you later, Eamon. That's good.
And the impact that Wellness from Within is now having throughout the whole of the North and Ireland and stuff like that. Tell me a wee bit more about Wellness from Within.
So Wellness from Within is nearly the spoken word from Little Penny Thoughts. Little Penny Thoughts is very much the written word, but I love events, I love people, I love talking. You know, I don't claim to be any Ellen or Oprah, but I love interviewing
Speak
people.
for yourself.
I love creating events and spaces and places where people can come to be inspired, empowered, and leave with something. And I suppose for me, the foundation of wellness is your mindset, nutrition and fitness. Now, I'm no nutritionist, I'm no fitness guru, but I bring people in that, you know, specialise in their field in order that they can, you know, give information to other people to make small changes in their own lives. For me, Wellness from Within is definitely a bit of a movement, you know, and it's something that I'm very, very passionate about. Want to take it across all of Ireland, starting in Tyrone, you know, the hub. We've done our first event there prior to Christmas, and our next one's coming up now in Omagh. But I plan to come to Belfast, I plan to go to Derry, but Belfast and Derry scare me because I have this thing of, oh, no one's going to go. So you stick, when you're a culture and you stick to your community, you know, oh, people come because they feel sorry for you. You know, you bring all your aunties and your cousins and that'll fill the room. You know, but when you step out of and that's when you step into fear, because I want, you know, it's not just my message, but other people's messages, you know, to reach. And like holding an event like this is scary. You know yourself, Donal, and there's a lot of work that goes into it, but it's so worth it because, like this room, I'm looking around, everybody's engaged, you're just having a great time, and if I wasn't here, I'd probably be scrolling on my phone. You know, so it's what you're putting your energy into and what you're spending your spare time on, and, you know, events like this are so important, and the more people that do things like this, the better. Talking about the things that matter most and creating impact and change, and like there's a lot of vulnerability, you know, in speaking, but it's when you're vulnerable, maybe other people can relate, then they don't feel as alone in their emotions. And, you know, choice and change is a massive part of the theme of tonight, and I hope everyone in here realises that nobody's broken, but if you want to make changes or tweaks in your life, you know, you have the choice and you have the power within to do so.
Thanks so much, Annette. Thank you. Sorry, and I know we are running a wee bit over time, so if anyone needs to, don't be feeling like I'm going to hunt you down or anything. But our next guest, Neil Mc Manus, I actually said it. I done an article in the Irish News last week, and I said it about the people we surround themselves with, and I touched on it there this evening and everyone has sort of touched on the importance of surrounding themselves with good people. And I got out of Sister Consilio's on the 30th of August 2019, that Sunday. We played Cushendall, we drew with them, and then went and played them in a replay over in Dunloy. And me and Neil absolutely knocked shade out of each other. But he came up to me at the end of it and gave me a hug and looked me in the eye, and he says, Donal, I love your story and we're going to do great things together. And I actually never sat down with you before that. I never had a friendship with you before that, but it was then that I knew, based on the tools that I got in Sister Consilio's, that I needed and I wanted to spend that time with you. And I suppose then me coming back in the Antrim the year I was there, you were away travelling, so I didn't get to experience the change room with you. But ever since that day, nearly 4 years ago, like Kieran, you're one of them people in my circle who has done so much for me, and the energy that you have is absolutely infectious. And just to put into context, I suppose Neil, if Neil was from Cork or Kilkenny or Tipperary or anything like that, you wouldn't have been able to get a hold of him for the night, because he'd have 20 All-Stars hanging out his back pockets and stuff like that. So if he was from any other county, you would be much bigger than what you actually are. And not that that's what it's about, but that's how actually good you are and how consistent you've been for Antrim over the last 20 years. Sorry, I'm being a wee bit dramatic, but 15 years.
That's Conor McCann you're thinking.
Sorry, Conor. It's funny because people put me, Neil and McCann in the same bracket, and they both have 10 years on me. But no, like, that's infectious, and I know you're massively into leadership in terms of your day job and what you do. Talk to me a wee bit more about, similar to the question I asked Annette, about your why and what gives you that drive and enthusiasm every day to get up and be the best person that you could be.
I suppose firstly, Donald, thanks for having me here with the guests. It's so funny to hear Annette saying she felt got a wee bit unsure sitting on the table whenever obviously Donald's about our house a good bit, and
we'll get on to that in a minute.
Aileen, my wife, was saying, asking who was sharing the stage with you, and I said, that's very interesting. I was telling her there was going to be life, there was going to be nutrition, there was going to be Mick Conlan's coming. She's a great boxer. She's obviously been to some of Mick's fights with me, and she knows Conor, and she says, what an unbelievable footballer. And then whenever I said Annette Kelly, she said, oh, brilliant, there's a star going. I was like, okay. But I'm incredibly lucky, obviously, to come from Cushendall. It was hilarious, can you hear you referencing Carnoch there earlier? So it was. That's where people's cars break down on their way to Cushendall. We hope there's nobody from Carnoch in here. No, I'm very lucky to come from Cushendall. It's a brilliant community, because it is exactly that. It is a community. You'll be told when you're out of line. You'll be supported whenever things are going well. It's no wonder that the hurling club has done so well over the past 40 years or so, because there's a connection there to each other that makes you want to do better. And I grew up, obviously my father's a Belfast man. He sort of displaced, around the start of the Troubles, and my mother's from Cushendall, so we set up camp in Cushendall, and we were very lucky that that's the way things worked out for us. And I always wanted to play hurling for Cushendall, because it was the only thing that mattered in the village, really, to be honest. And the people that were looked up to most were the leaders of the senior hurling team, and we would go down and watch training. Like, I know, how sad is that? Like, but we would go down and watch senior hurling training, and whenever you were 8, 9, 10, and then you get to go to Casement Park and see them playing there in county finals. You get to go to Casement Park and watch Antrim playing, and you learn a little bit more about the best players from your clubs. Get to go and represent your county, and I wanted to do that from I was a boy, obviously, and quite like Conor said, I wouldn't have been the most natural. Like, I obviously played with Shane McNaughton and Paddy McGill, and it seemed like those people just had it. But nobody just has anything. You just work at it, and that's why I think sport's so important. I definitely agree with Mick in the sense that in some form sport should be part of the national curriculum. We don't do it. PE doesn't cater enough for it. Everybody should get, and I don't mean just team sport or boxing or the really physical sports, things like kayaking and hill walking and things that anybody can do and really get a kick out of. Sport should be really inclusive. And in truth, you learn so much through your mistakes in sport. I've learned more about myself, even in my own, the times I've got it wrong, and they're plentiful. But I think, mistakes are life lessons, they're not life sentences. We all get the opportunity to come back. We always try and take the positive out of any situation, no matter what it is. And I quickly learned, I think similarly to Conor growing up, that I might not be the most talented, but I was kind of consistent with it. Just and I fell into a routine of training really hard. Big brother and my wee sister and her husband are here today. Like it was similar to what Mick said. It was competitive, you know. But anyway, my money's in Jamie for that scrap. Anyway,
Brendan.
I know Brendan's up there, but I'll never forget Jamie's fight with Anthony Nelson. Unbelievable. It's still my favourite one of all time. But sorry, Mick.
Max says Kisman Park, going to Kisman Park shows his age. Like,
Mick might sell that out for us whenever we get it built. But I think just I have serious pride in the community that I come from. Don. I'm very, very lucky to represent Cushendall. West Belfast has been like a second home to me, no doubt about that. I was so lucky to be playing, and I think maybe myself and Conor are the only two senior hurlers with Antrim who have played in Casement Park. Is that right, Conor? Yep. Which is terrible because a whole generation of Antrim hurlers haven't got to represent Antrim at senior level in Casement Park, and it's the hub of West Belfast. But it's coming, thankfully, and you know we'll see that again. That'll be good. But I'm very lucky about where I come from. I take great pride in representing it, and that's probably why, if you like.
Yeah, and that's incredible in itself. And even when you're touching on Casement, it's great to see Aisling Riley here, our local councillor, who is obviously working tirelessly to putting plans in to make that happen. And I suppose that work doesn't go unnoticed either. So thank you. And it is creating that environment where young kids can walk down the Andy Town Road and be excited about what Kieran and I've spoke about being excited about who they want to become and going into places like that and expressing their talents and not just GA, like with Mick and stuff like that. And I know there's other young boxers who have that ambition and dream of being in Casement Park, which is phenomenal. But you did touch on Alien and you did touch on me being in your house quite regularly, which is true. I often ask people, you know, how do you do all these things and work a full-time job, as in how do you be so consistent with your food and your sleep and all these things, but to spend, I suppose, the last 3 years living in Neil's, I have a bedroom in his house and stuff, so it's like a halfway house. I know, because he's a spoiled brat.
That's a fact.
So to sum up Neil's married life, I'm just going to sum it up because you're not going to tell the truth. He goes home, the dinner's sitting on the table, but it's all weighed out from whatever it is, from proteins, the fats, the whatever. Everything's weighed out, but on the table, the plate for him. He just had a child, so they sat down and they spoke about. Congratulations. He's a lovely, lovely little girl, but just had a child, and he doesn't get up at night time to do nappies. He doesn't do bottle feeds at night time. He doesn't do.
This is making me sound terrible.
No. Let me finish.
I can't wait to add to this, actually.
And I suppose to sum up the importance of. I'm going to get to the good part. To sum up the importance of surrounding ourselves with good people. Because obviously, Eileen, successful people, as we can all see, and that even with your sister, Conor, with people like the influences of your dad, obviously your dad and your brothers and stuff like that.
Same boat as him, 2 kids.
Do you do nothing?
No.
Nothing. But I think it's so important that we have loved ones who do our washing and things like that, and it's just. It shows you the influence, I suppose, that Aileen has had in your sporting career and your life. And how important is that, Neil? Because I think we live in a society where, and I've talked to Ciara about this loads, where we think we always have to have our ducks in a row, like, in terms of, so I'm 26 now and I'm going, Jesus, like, I don't have a woman. Like, all my mates are starting to get engaged. This is what way you're supposed to do things. But how important is it to sit back and be like, no, I'm going to make the right choice, as in meet the right person and have the right connection, rather than just jumping into like relationships?
That's an altogether different question, isn't it? I'm really, really lucky. As you say, my day-to-day life, like, so I obviously set goals like everybody else sitting here. and I used to do that. Like everybody used to do goal setting differently. Like I would have said, I want to win the championship this year with Cushendall. You know, a goal that I had very little control over, and now it's all changed to set goals now that are what am I about. That's where they start. So, like obviously I'm the oldest player in the senior panel now, but they
don't need to tell everyone that.
About a week older than Conor. But like I take it one day at a time. Genuinely, I love it. I'm so grateful that I'm still involved with the group of players that I'm involved with now, especially yourself. I think the way you've changed our changing room has revolutionised it, just with the openness and the honesty. Walking in that wasn't there before. You learn so much in a changing room. You learn so much in sport, things that are so transitional into your everyday work life and your family life. And I think we need to be better at that, probably as sports people, taking those things and applying them in different areas of our life, because it's so valuable and so very few people have got the experiences of working as a team and, you know, being part of a collective trying to reach that goal. And I think the people who do well are people who are consistent, and that is totally aided by Aileen. She takes on the bulk of looking after Aileen, the vast majority of looking after Aileen. The meals, having my gear ready, and keeping in mind Aileen was a senior camogue with Antrim for 10 years. So just to touch on that, that's one of the reasons why I admire Conor so much. I had the perfect setup and scenario and insight into how poorly sportswomen are treated in Ireland, and I never did anything about it really. I took it, that was how it was, and just because I didn't like it. And then you have people who are braver, and people like Conor who are now challenging that on the national stage, which is brilliant. And really and truly, I have my goals now. Some of them are hurling related, and I'll say to Aileen, look, this is what I want to do. This is what I will need your help with, and it's kind of a joint declaration that will give it a go, you know, and that she'll try and help me facilitate those things, and she does far more than is probably what most people would think is right. I would think, you know, but I'm very lucky in that scenario. Brilliant way, and a lot of people like Christie's here who've been in our house very, very regularly. I hope it's a good environment for people to come into. You know, set up by Aileen, you couldn't get through the door without getting a cup of tea and a ham sandwich. You know, it's a good country house. You know, she's from farming stock, so that's kind of the way they're brought up, isn't it? Up the cultures, yeah. So no, I'm very lucky in that regard. There's no two ways about it. But I think first and foremost, you have to, and it took me an awful long time. I was slow to mature. 34 now, and I wish I had known. You know, I started living the way I have over the last couple of years when I was 20. I am involved, obviously, talked to a lot of teams and even some businesses now, and I do a little bit of mentoring for people. And it's so easy. I used to give people advice, and I had no idea why you were giving them advice or even anything to give them advice about. But now you'll meet a young lad or maybe his father and say, "Will you chat to my son or chat to my daughter?" And they'll say to you, "I want to be an engineer." I think, great, what subjects are you doing? They say, I'm doing home economics and I really, really like PE. And you're thinking, that doesn't really equate to engineer. And you dig in and you ask them, you know, who do they want to, what do they want to be? And you find out that their dad was an engineer, and they really, you know, they're so proud of their father, and that's really why they want to be an engineer, but it's not really a good one for them. You know, you dig into why we want to do what we want to do, and that's just more of the questions that kind of ask myself of late. I wish I'd done it a whole lot earlier. I think I just listened to you, Kieran, earlier. I wish I'd have met people like that when I was 20 years of age. But you can only start now.
Legend. Thank you so much. Perfect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open it up to the room. I know we are running, so if anyone needs to shoot. I'm going to open it up to the room. If anyone has any questions, for any of our guests or for Eamon, feel free to shoot. All right, Cahill, how are we? Happy New Year.
This one isn't really, I don't know if it's a question or not, but it was interesting when Conor was talking about like wider impact. like outside of football, but on football alone, I think the impact you have on Tyrone players, like as someone from the outside looking in, it's huge. So there's like people, 5, 6-year-olds, boys and girls in Tyrone that want to play for Tyrone. When I go down to my mum and dad's, who are both from Tyrone, all that everyone talks about is Tyrone football. It's like huge distraction from problems in people's lives, and then when people go together with their families, they go to their matches, they talk, they're having a great time. So I just think it wasn't really a question, it was just more a statement about the wider impact that just you alone playing for Tyrone has on people. So as someone from the outside just looking in.
Annette, a lot of your business is online. I was just wondering if you've ever dealt with online trolling and how you deal with it mentally and move on from it.
So yeah, I would experience a wee bit of trolling now and then, but I don't really tap into it too much because I know it's maybe a reflection of maybe what they're going through and maybe their mindset. It's usually not very constructive. It's usually maybe something from a place of maybe judgment. Now, if it was someone that maybe knew me and, you know, knew what I was about, I would probably take on their opinion. But because they're simply strangers online, I realise that, you know, they don't know me and I don't know them, so I can remove myself from it. Now, at the start, I wasn't as thick-skinned, you know, but like the likes of... I used to get maybe, I wouldn't say it was troll, but say I put up a quote, say, and it was like a Bob Marley quote. And then someone would say, oh, what a load of dung, you know, but then I would say, I'll just put, you know, I would like, oh, take it out with Bob Marley type of thing, you know, but, you know, say, in regards to maybe when I get maybe, this is harsh but fair, but, you know, maybe now I would get a comment, maybe say my weight. You know, we can get a wee bit personal weight, or maybe sometimes my eyebrows is a talking point. You know, probably the most hurtful thing you can get is when someone doesn't realise that they're sending you the message. So you're like, they're sending my story to their friend and they're rinsing you, and then you'd be like, well, Fidelma, you know, sorry, you know, I'm sorry you feel that way, but that's okay. And then she'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to send that to you. Probably that's most hurtful, because sometimes you're better off not hearing what people think. And someone that about 3 years ago I was told, it's actually my brother-in-law said to me, and he says, looking at what other people think of you is none of your business. And I repeat that to myself, what other people think of me is none of my business. So I think that's helped me to grow a wee bit of a thick skin. Now, don't get me wrong, it can hurt, but when you put it in context, when you realise that it's someone that wouldn't say it to your face, or someone that's maybe going through a challenging time themselves, you can let it slide. And, you know, I only tap into energy which matters, and that energy doesn't. I know it's easier said than done, but when you experience it a few times, it builds you the resilience and strength just to keep her lit, you know.
Thanks, Annette. Someone else a question there? Huh? This will be interesting.
Just purely from a sporting point of view, I think everybody has self-doubt when they're going to do something that they would do. You know, and Mick getting into the ring, you know, it's you. Whereas I'm involved in sort of team sports where if you're having a bad day, other ones can pull you out of that bad day and get you over the line. From Mick's point of view, do you ever have a self-doubt, maybe the day or 2 days or whatever it may be before a fight? And if so, what sort of wee tricks would you have, or traits would you have to try and allay that sort of doubt?
To be honest, every time I'm going to fight, I'm absolutely shitting myself. It's not lying like it is. You'd be very nervous every single time. And for me, it's around lunchtime on the day of the fight. I'd just be sitting in the room going, fuck, I wish this was over, you know. I wish I wake up and it's tomorrow now, like, and I've won and everything's done. But then you start to think back and you go, no, this is what I've done training. This is the work I put in. Like the lads were saying, like, I wasn't always the most naturally talented fighter. I always just made sure I worked harder than everybody else. And still to this day, I'm the same. I make sure I work harder than anybody else. and that kind of gives me the confidence, and kind of start watching like sparring videos and stuff, because I record all the sparring, and I'll watch that and say, no, this is good, that's good, that's good. And that kind of gives me the belief and the thought back to where I need to be.
Class. Thank you, Mick.
Thank you. Hi, lovely to meet you all. I'm a great advocate myself for mental health and looking after people. So you've taken this platform, and you had mentioned earlier about bringing it into the youth, which is extremely important and not done enough here in Northern Ireland. I have my young nephew with me here tonight and his friend, and they're just starting out in their GAA career. And I'm just wondering, what advice could you give them for staying grounded and not getting caught up into that bubble and that egotistical mindset, if you like, for them moving forward, as they're both bright red now.
I let Conor answer that because I was never good enough to be in that position.
I know for me personally, I had a lot of setbacks from a young age, and that was probably what made me realise. And I'd say if you're talking to Mick, Neil, or anyone who has reached heights in their sport, resilience has been a huge part of it. Now, resilience is a word that we use a lot, but you know, there's a meaning behind it. Like, every sports person has dealt with a big injury. They've lost a match, they've lost a fight. Things haven't gone their way, and it's being able to come back from that is huge. Now, in GA especially, you'll lose a lot more games than you'll ever win, and that'll keep you grounded as well. And you'll have more injuries than you can count, and it's being able to come back from that each time is the big one. And that's the difference I probably see in players who excel, is every session, every game, just coming back and having that consistency. Surround yourself with good people. I'm lucky a couple of my best friends are in the crowd tonight. When you have good people around you, that doesn't allow you to really get ahead of yourself. They're going to keep you where you're at. Authenticity is a word I refer back to a lot now. And when you're comfortable in yourself and you know who you are and you know what you're about, then it doesn't allow you to buy into the hype and the, you know, people blow you up to be something bigger than you are. And like, as I say, Paddy Talley told me, you become last week's news very quickly. So sport, it's great in that sense. You have a bad loss, 24 hours later, life moves on. And the same with success, you know, 24 hours later, life's moved on. So when you take that, I've learned to enjoy it a lot more as well because of that. Like Mick said, I really struggle in nerves, especially from a younger age, always thinking I had to impress somebody else. Management, coaches, what happens if I get taken off? You know, want to impress my dad, make my dad proud. And, you know, you strip it all back. The reason why you play is because you love it and you're growing up in the backyard and kicking a ball against the wall. All you could dream about and all you want to do was, for me, was pull on an Oma jersey and a Tyrone jersey. So I try to embrace those moments more, enjoy them more, instead of letting myself get too high or get too low.
Class, Conor. Thank you. I'll take one more.
How would each of you define success?
You go first. You go first.
So, just back to the thing I said earlier about, you know, if somebody has a goal to make the team or whatever, I think there is only one definition of success, and that is exhausting all your energies in a consistent and focused way. I think that's pretty much it. So you decide, here's what I want. You get the absolute maximum out of yourself trying to do it, and you've thought about how to do it best. And it doesn't, to me, there's no, like, your goal could be to get on the team, whatever team that might be, and then you get on the team and, you know, that's really it. If you absolutely exhaust yourself, or if you're trying to get a certain job or get on a certain team, you can end up being the captain of the team. You might be offered a position above the job that you're applying for if you really go at it 110%. I think, for me, success is just you in a really focused way, giving all you can to whatever endeavour it is. And the success of that is knowing that you've done it. The outcome's actually less important for me.
I suppose success for me is, personally, is self-acceptance, appreciating everything that I am rather than everything that I'm not, and knowing that nobody has it all sussed. We're all learning, we're all growing, and definitely there's a level of, when someone asks me how do you feel successful in that, it's more of a feeling rather than an achievement, and that's contentment from within and getting to know myself a wee bit more and accept myself, flaws and all. Yeah, that's my definition of success.
To be honest, I don't even know. I could say winning, but winning's not the be all and end all. Happiness, I suppose. Happiness is success. If you're happy at the end of the day, whether you win or lose, it's a successful day, isn't it really? So happiness for me, I say.
Thanks, mate.
For me, there's winning deep and there's winning shallow, and I think a deep win is where there's real success, and then there's winning shallow where you've gone about it the wrong way or by luck or in some other way. I remember standing in Croke Park one year and we'd won the game, but I knew that I'd played within myself, and then I literally had a moment where I looked in the mirror and people were patting me in the back saying, you know, brilliant, well done, and all the rest. And I just thought to myself, I was myself out there, like, and I was scared and I had fear, anxiety, and I let that take over. So when I worked with a coach a couple of years ago, you know, sweat and courage was the phrase we came up with. Sweat was what Neil alluded to. You give absolutely every ounce of yourself, every bit of it, and the courage to just be brave and be yourself. So even now, like, we had a poor season last year with the county, and we lost a couple of games. I still felt coming away from those games, I gave every ounce of myself, and I was brave in every moment, and I was totally myself, and I could accept defeat a lot easier then because I'd given everything. I'd left it all out there. So success to me is that it's giving every ounce of yourself and knowing that you had none left, and whether the result was a win or loss, then you could look at yourself in the mirror. And for anyone who doesn't know, there's a poem, The Man in the Mirror. Yeah. It's a powerful one, and it's worth probably checking tonight if you haven't seen it before. It's one I have up on my wall, so that's that one.
Thank you so much. And I suppose, even to finish off the way I started earlier, and I actually mentioned it at the start about success, and like my success now, no matter what happens or no matter what more has to come from, let's face it, or Antrim or St John's or anything like that, it's still having that ability to get out of bed and to go in and look at the mirror and brush your teeth and say, do you know what, you're doing all right. And I suppose for everybody in here, who maybe anybody who is getting it tight, that sometimes that is okay. Just having the ability to get out of your bed and to go in and brush your teeth and get a shower, get it clean, and go and talk to somebody. Because no matter what you're going through, we all have the ability to bounce back, no matter what, and we all have the imagination. Even if we're in bed, even if we're in a rut, we can still tap into our imagination and not go into this thinking. Be excited and create that image, like Kieran said, about who you want to become, and just go for it. Because that's what I done, and that's what's happening now, and we all have the ability to do it. And I would just like to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart for coming here this evening. Hopefully it's the start of something going forward. And as Annette says, with wellness within she's doing, and what we do want to create that, and we all want to have a purpose in life, and I really, really, really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So yeah, thank you.